Hey everybody, Derek Gilman here at Heritage Hash Company in Mendocino, California. I am here with the lead hash maker and director of manufacturing, Belle, where we just finished filming all new content for the upcoming Ganjier Product Specialist Program. That was a whole lot of fun, wasn't it, Belle?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a part of this.
It's really exciting to be a part of this.
Yeah, as you know, one of the real main reasons and motivations behind inviting you to be part of this program was your association with Frenchy.
Yes.
You know, yes. I'd love to hear how and when you first met Frenchy.
Absolutely. And I love answering this one.
Very cool.
So I actually first met Frenchy at the 2013 High Times Cup in San Bernardino.
All right.
And he was at my brother, who is Leo Stone with Aficionado.
That's right.
Humboldt, now known as Aficionado Estates.
Makes those killer seeds.
Yes. And so Frenchy was Aficionado's official hash maker.
All right.
And Leo invited me to go to this High Times Cup to see what he was doing, because he kind of just disappeared into the mountains and no one heard from him.
All right.
And he came out and said, I just won Emerald Cup and now I'm having a booth at High Times and I want you to see what I have going on.
Oh, far out.
So me and my eldest brother, we went to go check out what was going on. And when we walked up, man, you know, Leo's booth was so different from everyone else's booth, because back in that 2012 era, it was more kind of that heady culture.
Yeah.
You had the 420 girls walking around, you know, it was like a little bit more on that heady hippie side of things. But when I walked up to Leo and Frenchy's and Mean Gene and Elle, when I walked up to their booth, oh my God, you know, they had a jewelry case. And in their jewelry case, they had, you know, Leo had his seeds in like almost like watch boxes.
They were literally like watch cases that you
Yes.
opened up, and the seeds were in these little glass jars with the wax seal on
Yes,
them, right?
yes.
And had the little card, and they're individually numbered, and it's got the you know the heritage, you know, of the genetics that are there, and
Yes, and they had their menus and leather menus. They had two leather couches. My brother had an oriental carpet in his
it was
booth.
this upscale, you know, like cigar lounge, social club kind of vibe.
Yes,
right?
and very ahead of his time. He was the only booth. He was the only booth looking like that at that time. And there was Frenchy in his silk shirt, you know, his nice gold jewelry, and he had his 3-hole bowl pipe with his quartz wand.
Of course.
And he was cutting off whole temple balls and smoking everybody out. This was the time when you can consume openly at these events, these trade shows.
Yeah.
And that was my first hit of hashish in a 3-hole bowl with the quartz wand was Frenchy. He sat me down in Leo's 2 leather chairs that he had in his booth iconically. And I got my first hit of hash. My best friend Nicole was with me, you know, so she actually has a photo of this moment.
Oh, so cool.
Yes, and it was just, it was such a magical moment. And I never smoked hash like that, so I got lost. And it wasn't a big festival, but I couldn't find my way out. But you know, down the road, I end up working with my brother, you know, because I see what he has going on, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is a great mission, you know, this is, So I started as a farmhand with my brother.
All right.
So that's, you know, walking amendments up hills and taking care of plants, and Frenchy was...
Leafing, watering plants, doing all the,
Yes,
the work.
and since Frenchy was still their official hash maker, he was considering having an apprentice at that time. So he actually offered me the apprenticeship, because he saw this beautiful vision in this kind of single source idea of like the genetic bred by the family, grown by the family, made the hash within the family, this whole, and that till this day does create some of the best concentrates out in the market. So Frenchy wasn't wrong about this vision of the genetics being in the family, it being grown by the family, and the hash made by the family. And a lot of winemakers do this too.
Sure.
So he really modeled it after that, and he took me on as his apprentice And this would require me to live with him and Madame Cannoli for a couple years, and we traveled, we taught workshops. I learned a great deal from not only Frenchy, but also Madame Cannoli.
You were intensive, just right there, living with them, and just...
And it all started with Frenchy going, I want you to come to my workshop. This was one of the first workshops that he was teaching in the Bay Area.
Yeah, the lost art of the hashishin.
Yes, the workshops that I continue to teach with Madame Cannoli now.
Yeah.
So I went to one of those workshops.
Which one?
The one in San Francisco, the Lost Art of Hashishin workshop in San Francisco. It might have been his third workshop.
All right.
He did like 2 more before that.
Yeah.
And what a magical experience. I related to it so much because we both have this culinary background. And his approach is very culinary approach. So we both really vibed on that level. And not a lot of people know this, but Frenchy and Kimberly lived in Japan during the same time frame that I lived in Japan as a child. So
you had that connection too.
So we had that connection too.
Yeah.
So we kind of understood this like apprenticeship and like this symbiosis of workflow and working with each other. He is my senior. He is like the master craftsman that I am apprenticing under. So it was a lot like an assistant chef, aiding the head chef in these endeavors a lot of the time. And so we can work in silence, and he wouldn't be like, go get me the ice. I already know that guy needs ice because I understood the process.
Sure.
And we had that beautiful connection. So it was a beautiful way I became his apprentice, and Madame Cannoli is definitely responsible for the director of manufacturing side of me. Frenchy was the lead hash maker side of me, and Madame Cannoli really kind of helped me hone in on those more Microsoft Office back office skills.
Well, Madame Cannoli was always the back end of the Frenchy Cannoli brand.
Yes.
Frenchy was obviously the face of the brand, obviously the hashishin. He's the one out there doing the events, but she was always there too. She was the support structure. She was the business behind Frenchy Cannoli brand.
Yes, and I equally learned that side of it, and I continue to from her till this day.
So cool. Yeah, and you guys are traveling around, like you just said, doing the workshop still.
Yes, we are.
What was the most recent one you did?
The most recent one we did, and I get to say this, was Amsterdam.
Get out of
here. That one
here.
was so cool. Yes,
Really?
Amsterdam.
Had you been there before?
I have not been there before.
All right.
So it was my first visit there.
What was that like?
And it was amazing. I really appreciate the culture. I appreciate the culture of bike riding and walking, versus, driving everywhere.
Yeah.
I like the honesty of people's bikes. People really just honor and...
The honesty of the bikes.
Yeah, they leave people's bikes alone.
Okay.
There probably is a little theft, like anywhere, but, everyone's riding a bike, so it's kind of like, you don't see people kind of messing around with other people's bikes.
You got other people looking out for each other. What the fuck is that? Yours, probably.
I like that sense of community, that sense of honesty, but one of my favorite things was at this workshop in particular, compared to workshops here in the United States, a lot of my students usually like to bring rosin to show their rosin that they made,
of
which
course,
is awesome.
I want to show off to the man.
Yes.
Hey, look what I made.
Awesome, and I love it. I have such a soft spot for rosin. But this workshop in Amsterdam was the first workshop that all the participants had hashish, pressed hashish that they made. And being Frenchy Cannoli's apprentice, that was our niche that we offered. That was the product that he kind of really brought awareness around in the market, was pressed hashish, temple balls. So all these students, touched by Frenchy, or, the influence that he brought, it coming back in the workshop and being like, Belle, look at my pressed hashish, or look at my temple ball. It was actually very, touching. And I just wish that, I could see that a little more. I can totally see a disconnect of, that the appreciation for pressed hashish in Europe and overseas compared to the appreciation for pressed hashish here. But
I see the appreciation for traditional pressed hashish growing.
Yes, because of Frenchy and programs like the Ganjier.
I give more credit to Frenchy for sure. He was the ambassador for traditional hashish, and introduced so many people to it for the first time around the globe. My first time consuming traditional hashish after about 20 years was at the 2017 Emerald Cup. and that was the first time I had ever met Frenchy.
Oh.
And I went to the Frenchy booth, which was right next to the aficionado booth. And long lines, and there was Frenchy and you and Lena there, okay? And each had, I think it was a 3-hole bowl maybe, right? Okay, and you were loading up hits and cleaning the pipes and just, serving them up to people as they were coming through.
Yeah. And that was magical because people, they will judge it aesthetically first, like, oh, that kind of looks dark, or I'm not sure about that. And then they smoke it, and French used to do this. They would make this like this. Oh my God, that tastes amazing. They would, as they exhale, every time, every time, and every time was like, oh my God.
Which is why I really think too much emphasis is put on the color of cannabis concentrates. More disproportionate amount of emphasis is put on the color. Because like you just said, here's traditional hashish. Here's this brown thing that kind of looks like, something you'd pick up after my dog on the ground, okay? But it's beautiful, layered flavor with these full-bodied effects.
Yes.
Some of the best tasting rosin I ever had some green tint to it. Believe it or not, it was a strawberry banana, and for whatever reason, some of that chlorophyll, some of the green material just worked into it. It wasn't plant material, it was just some green coloring. It was so flavorful and tasty and enjoyable that I just don't put so much credence in the color.
Sometimes, we use it's our weakest sense. Our strongest sense is definitely our taste and smell, and our aesthetic, aesthetics are, a clear liquid could be anything.
And ultimately, what's the motivation behind consuming it?
Yes.
Okay, am I going to buy this thing and I'm going to frame it and put it on the wall and it's like, oh, look at the color, okay? Or I'm going to buy this thing, I want to smell it, and I want to taste it, I want it to make me feel good. That's the ultimate intent,
it's not the ultimate judge of quality, it's just one of the many variables you can use to judge quality, but it's not the end-all, be-all of the ultimate judge of quality.
Yeah, for sure. Did Frenchy ever have any kind of thoughts on that you could share as far as color was concerned?
I liked when he said amber is kind of the color of life, like fruit. When fruits start to amber, they're ready, they're full of life, just like the trichome head when they start to amber a little bit. Yeah. And then this may be subjected to some strains because maybe the trichomes kind of act a little different depending on the strain. But, when
how it was grown.
When you're kind of waiting for those trichomes to mature, you kind of want them to get fully mature. And sometimes people would think like the tiny hint of amber was a sign of now it's starting to degrade. But he always argued like, no, like there's this point where yes, like it's too dark, it's too amber, where that's a sign of degradation. But just when it's like slightly amber doesn't mean that it's degrading, it means it's mature, like a fruit.
Right.
And sometimes you'll find that people will cut the plant early because they want the white look. But it's not so like about what it looks like more than are those trichomes scientifically really mature? Did you look? Did you scope?
I always loved his fruit tree analogy, you shake the tree a little bit and then the ripest fruit that falls from the tree, and you got to shake a little harder, and the same thing with the trichomes, right? Those riper trichomes tend to be the ones that are more readily, available to break off, and
Yes, and then, but then, growers have their reason too. Sometimes they can't sell a bud that is over-vegged, is kind of overly grown out or starts to loosen up, so they kind of have to cut it at a point if they are deciding to send it to flower. But sometimes there's a disconnect of understanding if they're going to send it to flower or if they're going to send it to hash.
And that's the point, really. When's the perfect time to harvest? Well, the perfect time to harvest really depends a lot on what the end use of that
what are you going to do with
it? Exactly. Is it going to be for flower? Maybe let it grow a little longer. You want it to fill out a little more, right? But if it's like maybe you're going to use it for a rosin or a certain, concentrate.
You got to pay attention to the heads.
Pay attention to the heads. Pay attention to the aroma. Maybe there's a certain aroma profile that exists, at the 60 to 65 day window, but you let it go 70 days and it's already started to turn into something else.
Yeah,
right? And so
possible.
To capture it there, right? Well, far out now. Had a great time filming with you today.
Yes, that was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm really appreciative of you and your crew.
Oh, absolutely. Looking forward to the new program coming out, and looking forward to everybody checking out the new program when we release it. The Ganjier Product Specialist Program, the introductory level to Ganjier. a way to make it a little bit more affordable and a bit more accessible for those interested in getting a part of the Ganjier experience. And until then, till next time, we'll see you.